Hey, look at this. Oh my goodness me. So yes, well, if that isn't as close as possible to Bjorn's Star-Spangled Cat, well, it isn't anything like his. It was a Hagstrom, I think, he had in that video, but this is Hugh's Westone Raider 1, super sparkles, and there's a great picture online somewhere of Boy George holding one of these. 1983-ish or something like that, but I thought I'd do a bit of Waterloo on there for you. Because it's just totally glam rock-tastic. This thing is amazing. It's a great big thick bodied, bolt-on necked, sparkly lacquered. It's got a kind of darker tone, a little bit of a gradient there. Somebody's got their pre-Photoshop out and gone gradient from here to here. You know what I'm talking about, Photoshop people. Brass bridge. It's a tremolo. The thing is in the arm somewhere. The thing is in the arm, and we got what is a really. There's a Matsumoku thing. And it's made in Japan. Matsumoku. Get it right, Matsumoku. Anyway, and it's got this fabulous thin little kind of vintage strap feel to the neck, that classic thin rosewood fingerboard, original nut, everything's original on this thing, and you look, it's just got more, less, more, and there's nothing else to it, and it's minus a string, so a bit less, but it's got a very familiar feel for those early 80s Japanese guitars. This is strat scale, 648, well actually it's kind of like 646, so it's just a whiff off Strat scale, but it's close enough. So it feels like a vintage Strat, basically. And I suspect it's a 9.5-inch radius without measuring it. So this is in from another one of Hugh's, and like Hugh's other guitars, I'm already caught, banging it against them. Well, I haven't done that, but other people banging it against things, as you can see, and it's very easy to bang against things, but it's a great little thing. I mean, who wouldn't want to play with one of these? I'd love to take this out. I think I'm playing a gig tomorrow night at our drummer's wife's 40th. I'm sure for fun we'll play Waterloo. And it would be great to just take this and do it on. I won't do it, Hugh, I promise you. But it's just right for it. So what we got here is the Raider 1, which is a iconic, very hard to find now by all accounts. It's not surprising. It's just, if you like gloss filled with sparkles, this is your thing. I mean, you can't get gloss filled with sparklier than this. I mean, it's the ultimate sort of snow globe bling from the early 80s. We're just, yeah, what a beaut. It's a kind of, you think it's an acquired taste, but actually you put one of these things on and you realise this just has that irreplaceable feel of Japanese early 80s guitars. And whether it's another Westone, whether it's a I don't know, I suppose not Columbus and things like that, because they didn't come from the same place, but I don't think they did. It certainly didn't come from the same production line. But You know, anything, I mean, even JV Squires, this is incredibly reminiscent of JV Squire. It didn't come from there, I don't think, but it's got the feel of it. It borrows from that kind of era. But a load of, I've had a few Yamaha SE350s and 355s and stuff like that, all from the same factory. There's some oh my goodness, the name of the thing escapes me, not Aria, the other one, Ibanez, some early Ibanez guitars, you know, with this same sort of brass stuff, same sort of early 80s Strat style necks, but absolutely gorgeous. And it, you know, if you're not a fan of sticky necks, then this is sticky, and to sand this back would spoil the overall effect of the glitter, so you wouldn't want to do it. But yeah, not common these anymore, and this is pretty much right now all original. Yeah, absolutely all original. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to refret it for Hugh, and I'm going to put a dual pot on here, because although it was built with a single pickup and just volume only, Hugh's kind of playing style means he needs a tone to work on. So we're going to have a slightly larger thing, dual pot affair, and it's also going to have to, it's going to impose the way the tremolo goes in. You're really going to get a choice between dropping the tremolo either side or the arm either side of this larger. I mean, it hits on the top of here as it is, but with a slightly taller pot, you're gonna end up with a tremolo one or the other sides. But that is the way it is. So we're going to replace the nut, new frets, sort of they're kind of totally worn out down the end here, understandably. A light reworking of the board just to make sure it's even, as opposed to trying to clean up any look. And then we're going to replace this original nut, which again we have to be very careful to get it out without damaging or chipping any of the rosewood, because it is very thin. There's not a lot of play room to spare in this rosewood. Same with my when I had my Squire JV, they made them thin, not like some of the modern things today where you've got acres of rosewood to kind of grind away at, you know, as many times as you want to refret it. This thing is kind of limited. Anyway, so the deal is we're just going to get stuck straight into taking this strings off and the kit and the neck off, and afterwards, after I've done the refret on this, I'm aiming to do the refret today because I've got a busy weekend. I'm not really going to be able to pay too much attention to too many guitar things, and I've just had another one come in from Rich, and that's a Chinese made, I have to say, unbranded guitar in the Les Paul style. Okay, so before anyone gets up in arms, we're not going to call it a Chibson. I think I'd prefer to call it a Chingle cut. Right, so it's, you know, it's not branded. It's not trying to be a Gibson counterfeit. However, it is, I suspect, I haven't seen it yet because I haven't unwrapped it, but I think it's probably very much in the Les Paul look-alike style. But what the hell, you know, everybody makes things like that at one point or another in their history, including me with my SG styled Eki thing, which by the way I sorted out the out of phase pickups yesterday, and it's ready to go for playing tomorrow night at the party gig. So no idea how that is going to go down. We haven't had a chance to rehearse this week, so I'm just I'm hoping it's going to be, because it's a party and it's the drummer's wife, I think we're on safe ground. Fingers crossed, and I presume everybody will be quite merry and having a jolly old time. So things like Waterloo will probably go down really well, even as badly as we play it. That isn't too bad, I have to say. We know where the bits are and where the choruses are, so it's a bit of fun. God. Blimey, how much have these been wound on? I love Hugh's taste in guitars. Constant supply of interesting and weird things, and of course I've still got what's her face over there, known as Cosmos number 2. Oh, and Cosmos number 2 got more interesting. So Hugh picked up Cosmos number 1 and has been enjoying playing that, especially through his Katana amp. And then, but when he came over to pick it up, he brought over a Duesenberg tremolo and said, could you somehow make that work with this weird sort of I don't know, almost MDF style body, and so I've put a block in as a footing for the tremolo. But I have to tell you, right now, I wouldn't be surprised if that fell apart. Actually, you know what I could do while we're here? I know it's multitasking, but I'll just show you it. But actually, there's a little gap which I think I would like to either glue or resin in. I think I'll probably just slip some more glue in there for now. Yes, so when I refer to this as a curved ball, it's fun. So this is another one of Hugh's babies, and the Duesenberg, I've drilled the holes in this footing here, the extra footing. Now, if it's not strong enough to hold this, and it's glued in nice and solidly, I'm going to put a little bit more glue in the where the little holes that are left down here. But if it's not strong enough, then the next plan is to extend this. I don't know how well you can see this, but I can extend it. Because there's a channel here for the cables, right, and there's a limit, there's a pot right there. There's a slight problem, so we may lose that pot anyway, so that may not be a problem. So what I'll do is I'll bring this, the problem is there's thinness there and thinness there. So what I can do is I can actually cut all of this piece off next, bring this out, come this way, cut away here to allow the wires to go a bit down this way instead, just underneath where the strings hook in if you're not using the tremolo. And then take this whole block here, come out a bit, and then take it down to about there. So we'll clean this back, smooth it out flat, and we'll glue a new piece in there, and that will give another sort of 3 mils, 4 mils of thickness either way. But we'll see. We'll see. My feeling is this is a gap, so I think it probably, there's a little gap there. It might be served better with resin, but resin won't sink in there the way glue will. So let's just ladle a bit of glue on there and park it for now, and hope that it goes some way in. It's just an additional thing. See if we can add a little bit more strength to it. Blade. We're in the return of the Great British Summer at the moment, so apparently it's going to get hotter and hotter today, tomorrow and Sunday, and Claire and I have booked to go for a sail on Sunday, which is going to be great, down in Falmouth, down Falmouth Way. Stand up. Yes, so we've got well, it's just an afternoon thing, so we're going to go and then enjoy it. So there's going to be, by the looks of the weather forecast, it's going to be practically no wind at all, very little, so it will be very unchallenging. It'll just be more like an afternoon in the sun on the waters, which there are a lot worse things one could be doing, but it's a case of bring the sun protection stuff. Now really I want this thing to sort of hang actually about there. I want this to seep into those cracks as much as possible. So what I'll do is I'll borrow something like this, one of my conveniently, cunningly prepared dangly things, rope things, and just dangle it over there. Just make sure that it's as safe as it really looks like it is. Yeah, it's good. And then, sorry, I'll be back to you in a minute. Sorry about this diversion. And it's all on Hugh's ticket, as they say. So I'll come back and when this is sunk in a bit, I'll come and hoik the last bit of overflow out there. You happy? Yeah, you're not going anywhere. Fine. Right, so back to this one. Yes, so anyway, that's if that doesn't work on that, we'll put a new block in, but we're going to make that Duesenberg tremolo work. Oh yes, we are. Right, so here we have some things that I'm going to take off for the time being, including, and not limited to, the strap button here, which is nice and solid actually for a change. I'll do a couple of close-ups of the frets with my phone, and just for kind of posterity purpose. It's got a nice feel to it. It's got a big brass sustain block in there as well on the tremolo, so it's got all the sort of quality bits that you'd want. Now, whether or not it currently has a shim in is sort of irrelevant, because by the time we've put new frets on it, then the whole alignment orientation is going to change. Leftover stuff, I can bin that in the recycle pot where all the spare screws go. Waiting for a boring, slow day where I tip them all out and sort them whenever I get sort of an OCD moment come over me. So here we go. Hello. Oh yeah, we got a shim all right. We'll stick that little plastic shim. Got anything on here? No, but all in order. Very nice. Now this obviously will come back to this because we'll do some work in there as well, but we might as well take the bits off now and be able to look at everything and see what we see while we're at it. And this won't be a terribly difficult wiring job, wiring in a tone circuit to a dual pot. Oh, look at that, made in Japan. Boing. That is lovely. Brass block, made in Japan. Quality. Wow, such a huge thing. It's got a little foil strip up there from the underside of the pot, so the actual the cavity it's in is not shielded, but it's got a bit of shielding off the top here, which connects to the pot itself to earth it, which is quite cool. Give you a look in there. See? But we could shield that as well for good measure. Somebody, I guess, knows that maybe that's all that's needed. I'll maybe go over the top on that a little bit, but look at that brass block. Right, excuse me. Now, I'm going to put this out of the way, as in hang this up somewhere else, because I just don't want it rattling about in harm's way while we're doing fretting, because I've got two necks to do at the same time. So this might get complicated, because when I get into the production line, it sort of becomes a bit pointless to, or a bit silly to stop and whiz backwards. Maybe I try to whiz backwards and forwards between two different guitars, but when I'm doing things back to back, kind of almost makes sense to just do them in the same video, maybe, I don't know, I haven't worked out. If I do it separately, switch the camera on and off, and then I come back to it and go, oh look, we're on this one now, and now we're on that one, and so on. Trust me, that's about as editing as I get. Well, you know that. Okay, all secure. Hang up there, my friend. Okay, so this is the neck. Thin frets, mildly thin frets, but we're going to change all of that. I can't remember what's in there now anymore. What was in there? Let's just take a look. That looks quite chunky. Is that as big as I think it is big? That is huge. Is it huge? Right, these are all parts, medium. What's this stuff? Okay, this is, I think, let's just measure. I think that's all parts is 1.4 mils from end to end, which makes it quite tall. Well, all right, 2.95 including the tang. 3.09 including the tang. These are two together, but let's check they are the same substance. I've already lost my blade. How did that happen? It's there. I think this is the end of my StewMac jumbo wire actually, which is okay because I might use it on this one. Or, well, no. Hugh liked the stuff I put on the Concorde. So one might feel that we go with the same stuff as on the Concorde, and maybe save this one for something else. We've got loads of other stuff coming in. 319, $319-ish, close to 319. Okay, so this is all the same stuff. It's super jumbo, but we'll put that in there for now. And this is the medium jumbo, which is quite tall but not so wide. So this is 270 mils. Let's do that thing there. Oh God, 0.106. Trouble is, it's the it's tall and relatively narrow, which kind of works with that actually. So let's go with that because that's what was on the Concorde. Right, first things first, check the radius. Predict 9.5. Oh God, worse. Well, you see, this is an old age thing now. It's closer to 7.25. Hakes. Yeah, it's curved than 9.5, but it's not quite vintage Strat. I'm not kidding, are you? Well, Hugh, I can make it, keep it original. I think that's kind of important, but you obviously remember with the original you're not going to get the same ultra low action out of it. A 7.25 is very, very difficult to to get 1.5mm blast fret playing action. Just, you know, experience has shown, well, you can make it play, that's absolute no problem at all. What you can't necessarily do is make it do big bends at that. So maybe I'll just send you a quick message and we'll get that established. But in a way, the choice here is partly keeping it as close to original as we can. But the other consideration in it, I think that's very important, is that there isn't that much rosewood in here, and if we were to re-radius that to 9.5, we have to take quite, not a lot, but we have to take more off the middle to flatten it all out. Doable actually, not critical, but you know, it's there as a it's a 7.25. At least it is now. It might not have been when it started. Who actually knows? Because I don't. Your guess may be as good as mine, but I can tell you now it's as close to vintage 7.25 as you can get. Now this is a little bit tricky because we've got crunchy lacquer all the way up to the nut, the original sort of nut. So you have to basically have to break off a little bit of it to get this, stand any chance of getting this nut out. And that means that we have to sort of do the best we can to lightly polish that flat again afterwards. And obviously I don't mean with a buffer, that's going to have to be fine sandpaper and micro mesh to stand any chance of cleaning that up. But it's just it's not hard to do. We'll use a different, use my patent, not that, something like that, my curved patent fret wibbler thing, wherever it's gone. It's lost in there. So anyway, yeah, it's a little thing that's quite good for doing a radiused sanding. Anyway, we can make one if we need to out of some 7.25 radiused wire, which we could get an old piece of unused wire and radius it, especially for the purpose. Okay, so first of all, this is quite hard because of that curled up lip of crusty lacquer. It's quite hard to get to the base of this nut to score a line down it. So just gently sort of chiseling away for a minute. And, because it's quite thick lacquer anyway, what we don't want to do is sort of hit the nut too hard and start splitting lacquer, but as you can see, it's quite difficult to get down to the edge of this nut here without the blade kind of running off and doing unwanted things. Quite difficult at the best of times. I don't think I'm really making much inroads into the space down the side, so it may end up being necessary to split this nut with either a Dremel disc, or probably safer with a fret saw. Of course, we also have to score the edge. Sorry about this. Score the edge of the nut here where it joins, and again that's a very nice smooth join to begin with, but we have to break it if we're going to get this nut out, which we want to, and it's just simply not easy. I'd probably give myself a marginally better chance if I... Oh my god, don't do this to me. Why doesn't masking tape become so sticky when you really don't need it to? And then most of the time it's utterly useless. I don't know. So this is a bit of a crude way to give myself a blade I can use for doing this job. I say crude, but fairly effective. I just need to be able to hold on to it while I'm doing this without risk of chopping my fingers off, which is what I usually end up doing. There we go. Temporary homespun I'm just doing my best to break the lacquer. Now it can be redone a little bit with some nitrocellulose. Is the quickest way of doing it. It doesn't look too bad actually. You can put nitro on top of poly quite easily or without any problem at all. Maybe some people might say, well, that's not period correct, but this isn't. Changing the volume into a volume and tone pot isn't also volume period correct either. So that we know we're not making this a display model. This is for you to play. Okay, well, that's that. There's a possibility that with a couple of little taps you might see it move, but if it, oh my god, everything's just tangled. But if it doesn't, then it's okay, and we'll hold off. I just read somewhere that if you're looking for some pickup wire, USB cable apparently is supposed to be really good. It has the correct number for not pickup. Yes, for if you're looking to rewire convert your 2-core wires into 2-core pickups into 4-wire pickups. That's good, right in the hole. Okay. Okay, that's moving. It's all good. Right, got a little bit of flake off there, but nothing major. Now that gives us a good surface that we can also flatten back with some sandpaper. And actually, another clever way of doing it is to put some self-adhesive sandpaper on there and go like that. That's another way of using a set radius. Nice old vintage bone nut. Shove it over there for the time being. Right, so I've taken a couple of pictures. Next thing we want to do is to lift out these frets. So I'm going to put aside my sharply pointed new wonderful soldering iron and use my old cheap but still got some life in it soldering iron for warming up the frets. Now whether or not warming these frets will do much to help is anyone's guess. Could be or it couldn't be. Who knows? Now it's going to be a little clunky here because I have not taken the tuners or anything off. Excuse me. Let's see if we can just hold it down. We don't need to really clamp it very hard, that's fine. Just hold it there. Now while I'm at it, we'll get the other neck out that's going to be dealt with today, and this is Timo's Ibanez neck. And this is all the way from Sweden, and it's going to get a whole bunch of ultra large gold, Evo gold frets on there, special treat. And then Timo got a whole bunch of what do you call them, shims, in case he needs to raise that thingy nut, whatever it's called, you know, locking nut, because that's one of the things I said, that we'll have to either reshape or shim this to bring this up, because on these Ibanezes they're obviously made to give you a perfect first fret action on the fitted frets, and I'm going a little higher than those and newer obviously, so that's going to possibly cut the action down a fraction small. So what he's going to do when he gets it back is just to raise it with these little shims, and then, you know, it's pretty simple to do. There's not any cutting or anything required. Okay, so we're going to get ready to pull those out, and while we're at it we should really production line it and take the others out as well. Next thing in line, we're also going to need to bend some new wire, and in the case of Hughes's, we're going to create a very short lengths in here. No, maybe. Yes. Is that the right size? Yes. Okay. So I think I ought to. Well, no. Let's pull these, and then I'll get onto here and double check. No, we have to go. We have to go vintage. No, we still check. No, let's check. Let's not assume anything. So we'll give you a quick social media-y message in a minute. That means I can go in and get a cup of tea. Right, so the first part, I know you're a bit of a long way away. Normally I bring it up closer, but in this case I'm just going to go keep a distance, because then you can sort of see a wider picture. Normally I just get my hand in the way and it's not much to see. So you can see the grease on these things frazzling up already, and then they get warmer and out they come. Hopefully the warmth does a little bit of help. Now with this guitar, it's we don't really know just yet whether I'm going to preserve these end bits or whether it's worth cutting them out and re-lacquering. I've got a feeling it's probably better to cut them out and refill, and the reason I say that is because when you're doing a refret on something as, well, on anything really, but let's say something as relatively valuable as this, you know, in terms of collectors, value to collectors or aficionados, the crucial thing is, as I've discovered before to my cost, the crucial thing is you've got to get the new frets seated in beautifully, particularly with a tight radius like this. If they're not seated beautifully, you'll struggle to get a good playing action, and you may have to redo it, which I've had to do a couple of times in the past, not too often, thankfully. But the problem is with this, you know, there's not, it won't tolerate too many refrets because it's thin to begin with, this rosewood and so on. So I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is, you ought to do when you're fretting is do everything at this stage, preparatory stage, to give the best chance of your refret being successful, and that includes cleaning out these slots as thoroughly as possible. It also includes making sure the fingerboard is level, because if you've got as I found out with Hugh's Sun Mustang a couple of weeks ago, if you find that one fret sits in a depression that's even, in this case it was probably about the, like a little tiny microscopic trough, and one fret sat in that, and it made everything high relative to that fret. Now what do? You can't find another gauge of fret to successfully fill in. Well, you might be able to, but that would be quite a faff. But the trouble is, the problem is you don't realise you've got this problem until you've been levelling and you just can't get the thing to work, and then you realise that you've got this microscopic flat. And then I kind of, in retrospect, I realised that on that neck I'd chosen for some reason not to resurface, sand the fingerboard. So in a way, I paid for it that time because I had to completely refret it. But the second time round, I re-radiused the board to give myself a better chance of the frets sitting evenly to begin with. So it's all about that best chance of that happening. And so you look at each of these things and you go, okay, is it better, even though this has got a nice vintage kind of dirty, dark, finger-stained patina to it, that's great. Somebody says, well, I want to preserve that. Well, okay, if you do preserve it, you run the risk of you're working with whatever the board is currently doing, and if there's any imperfections in it, you're going to fret on top of that. In this case, Hugh's fine if I just clean it up a little bit and make sure it's level, which is what I'll do. The next decision then is when you come to the the fret slots. The bottom line is you've got to have them clear, otherwise you'll find the frets they'll sit on top of crud and they won't sit properly, and then you'll end up murdering a single fret because it's higher than the others, and you'll take half the life off that fret just to get the thing playing. And you want to ensure that doesn't happen rather than end up trying to correct it in fret leveling. So the choices there are, do I retain these cute little fills at the end which are nicely lacquered over and treat this as a bound neck, which in which case when you're dealing with a bound neck, like for example, which one have I got? Over there standing up, Paul's Epiphone, which I'm going to do. When you refret a bound neck, unless you want to go and redo the binding, which is a big deal, then you have to work within that constraint. Now you could do the same here, but you don't have to. We could recut these slots with a saw and then fill with a bit of lacquer afterwards, or a bit of resin, or whatever fills the gap, and you kind of almost can use anything. It's just a matter of trying to match the colours and getting some substance that will dry quick enough. That is, yeah. So is it worth risking leaving crud in the slots, causing you problems refretting, for the sake of having the original lacquer filling those end cuts? And I don't think it is really. And actually many guitars, a lot of people would just refret right to the edge with the tang and not bother with the fill bit, because these have been, looking at this, these have been cut slightly short. Actually, it might not even be. They may. I think what's happened here is these have been cut exactly, beveled exactly to the edge flush, and then the whole of the lacquer has been added on top of that, which hides the end. So in a simpler way, instead of trying to fill them, it's just don't do the overhang bit. It's just cut these frets right to the end, but make sure that the tangs are nicely trimmed. And one of the things I've learned about that is if you're not careful, you can end up with a twist in the tang which looks pretty crappy from the side. So a way to avoid that is to cut in a certain direction, but also cut a bit extra so that you can then bevel off any excess twist in the tang. So it's a few things you kind of pick up along the way from getting it wrong, basically. it's interesting that that whole issue about I've been trying to find out about over the years about the early Fender frets, because there's a whole sort of thing about, oh, you've got to, the frets were installed sideways with a special machine, pushed into the slots sideways, and I found that out because I'm doing a music master once. Advice was to drift them out sideways, which I did, and then of course, because nobody has the so-called legendary machine that apparently Fender used to put these frets in somehow, in parenthesis, sideways, you end up having to push them in from above anyway, in a regular refret. So it kind of it defeats the object. If you're going to refret from above, which in fact, interestingly, all the examples that showed how to drive them out sideways always refretted from above, then there's absolutely no point in driving them out sideways. It then becomes merely a sort of a point of interest that they may have been installed that way for a particular reason, and the reason is, although driving them in sideways creates a sort of groove, a channel all the way through where these little tang diamonds are, the idea was that the fact that they were pushed in through a sideways tunnel, well, they created I suppose a tunnel or a groove all the way through, nonetheless kind of left some wood above that little groove so that the little tang diamonds wouldn't pull out. And that's a pretty smart thing, and I think it's was it Dan Erlewine of Stumac showed a technique for putting them in slightly offset and then tapping them sideways as a sort of way of achieving a similar thing. So just go down and then sideways, so you create a little channel as you push the diamonds sideways, but then they can't come up through the wood. Not a bad idea. I mean, if I had loads of time I could tap around and do some experiments with that, but you know, nice thought if you don't want to use any glues at all, or you really need you need something to stay. Yeah, I quite like that little 90-degree L-shaped tap. That's quite a smart little idea. Anyway, we shall see. I personally are quite attached to the super glue because it's quick and it's very functional. And it may be overkill at times. I mean, the frets that are going to go in now, I suspect they've got slightly wider tangs than the originals. I could be wrong. It doesn't always translate that way. Okay, let's leave that running because I'm going to switch. Let's see. It's maybe not such a good thing because it depends where you grip the tang, but let's see as a general bite. 27 something or other, hundredths of a millionth of an inch. 32, so slightly wider, so that these will have a little bit of a grip anyway on their own, so you never know, might get away without any glue at all. It would be nice. I mean, technically that's what all these little gripper bits are all about in the first place. You know, they don't want to chuck glue on a new fretting, but it's hard to say because, you know, when you're doing it for a customer and you don't have a factory production line, your job is to make sure it stays and it plays. You haven't got the luxury of trying it out and going, oh, they fell out 6 months later, never mind. Okay, so here we have the Ibanez with obviously a raked back headstock, which kind of feels very different to kick off with, and this isn't really going to want to hold it down. Maybe I'll just get away without holding it down at all. Could do something with a bit of rope or something, but let's just see if we can remove it. Okay, so well, whatever these were, they're coming out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from this end, just so I've got a bit to lean on. Yikes! Right, here we are. So I should stop and right, hold on. Right, now I'm going to switch videos miraculously in a flick of an eye, cut these frets for hues, line them up, and then before you know it, I'll be going and get a cup of tea. Woo! Says the cow. We're back on Hughes, and we're doing, oh my god, we've done, oh, no, we're not back. Strike that. I'm going to go in, make a cup of tea, and send a message to Hugh to see if he wants which other, one or other of the radii eyes. See you in a minute. Okay, so we clarified, and we've gone 9.5. In fact, the Concord is 9.5. Concord 2 that Hugh likes so much is 9.5. So although this one spec is 7.25, we've agreed on re-radiusing it to 9.5, and that makes it a little bit easier to get low action with the bends still there. I checked my own video, and funnily enough I nowhere to actually refer to it directly. I think I stopped the camera at the point I was selecting the radius and stuff, and it suddenly reappeared on that video with a bunch of frets already cut. But anyway, judging from how I described it, which was my little bit of detective work, I was talking about lucky to get a 1.6mm last fret action on the low E out of a, what was I quote unquote, relatively tight radius. Now, a relatively tight radius in my book is a 9.5. A very tight radius is a 7.25, because that's the tightest one you can really get in the normal electric guitar catalogue. Anyway, look, I'm going to put this camera off in a minute because I'm starting to boil in here. It's sort of, what time is it? It's 2 o'clock, and mad dogs and Englishmen are getting roasted, so I'm going to be dripping with sweat in a minute, and it won't be a pleasant sight. So you can see what I'm doing. Yes, blah blah blah, cutting frets to fit. I've re-radiused. I've checked the depth of the tang, yeah, you know, them things that we have to put in here, fret tang slots, and so I'm just now cutting to size to give me as clear, untwisted ends, and I'll then trim them down, but I'll do that off camera because it's starting to get really hot, and I might have to just leave it to cool time. It might be later tonight when it's dark and cool, but right now it is starting to get, as you can probably tell, too hot for this shed. What a lark. Anyway, I'll just get to the end of here and then I'll cut off. Just had the pleasure of finding some video of Ott and the All-Seeing Eye, which is a band which has Nick Holden, who bought one of my Outcasters, is a member of that band, and they just played Boom Festival, which I'd heard of, but I don't know much about it. But anyway, they played there in a fantastic trancey sort of set. Sorry if that's the wrong term, but that's what kind of the only reference points I've got. But it sounded absolutely brilliant, and there's some video on there, and I'm pretty sure, unless he's got another one that looks similar, I can see him playing my Outcaster, which is a great thrill. It's a proud dad moment, proud guitar dad moment. Anyway, so there we are. Let's just swap that one with that one, shall we? Give it a little bit more overhang is the word I'm looking for. Something like that. And we've got some spare as well, which is good. Namely this piece. Right, good. I'll come back to you at some point later when it's cool, and maybe do the refretting, gluing and refretting bit later on both the guitars I've got to do today. Phew! Well, here we are. It's that time. Yes, folks, it is fretting time. So, here we go. Good old-fashioned fretting time. Right, let's just get things standing up in the right places. Okay, I had cut myself a bit of metal that was going to do a job, and now I've lost it. It's not there, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. Well, I went to quite some trouble to make that piece of tin, and I appear to have lost it. I could have thrown it away. It's not critical. Not the end of the world, but it's sort of worrying that I'm making out like it was only a minute ago, but it was hours ago, so I don't blame myself for losing it. Okay, well, in the absence of that little thing, I will dig out this little thing which seems to do a reasonable job. Okay, right, let's get our bungee rubber, which is a really important part of this whole arrangement. Couldn't do things without it. Okay, so here's the game. The game is a little bit of glue, a little bit of frets, and away we go. A little bit of a stick. I guess we'll use some sticky post-it notes to put down gluey cocktail sticks on. Right, so we're going to want to put this up here like that. We're going to get a piece of this rubber, foamy stuff there to suspend over there, and then we're going to get, sorry, you've got these big screwdrivers in your way. Then we're going to get a bit of the old glue into the edges and then along the seam and balance that there. And we're going to put this nicely set on the middle, and we're going for 9.5, just double check, there's 16 there, 9.5 in the machine, and then we're going to bring that down. I can just get this whole thing vaguely lined up to begin with. Get that on there like that, get it on there like that, and push it down, and then we'll clip it on like that. You see, it's that simple. Then we get one of our trillion bits of whatever that might be called, kitchen roll of an unspecified brand. Blitz. Blitz? Yeah. Blitz? Yes, it's called Blitz. Not promoting Blitz or anything, but I like it. And then I like to just throw the paper on the floor, because that's the kind of lazy fretter I am. And by the time that's done, I'm kind of quite content that that's on enough. And sometimes what we can do at this point is rustle up a quick bit of the old debonder stuff and just give the thing a rub down either side. Takes a bit of the old rosewood colour with it, and then just have a look at it and see what we've got now. That is a fraction up at the edges, but what I'm just want to confirm is that it's actually sitting as a 9.5 inch. Yeah, it is. So that's the radius, the fingerboard at this end I left not so radiused, and the reason why is because it's incredibly thin at this end, so I just thought let's not push it too hard. So it was a deliberate decision. The fretboard will still be 9.5, but the underlying rosewood is going to be a little curved. It doesn't look bad. It kind of looks a bit odd if that's in the middle, i.e. it's the other way around, but this is not that case. So, but it was a choice because I didn't really want to take too much material off that, you know, off that end. So everything with its reason, nothing done without a good reason, I promise you. Well, a few things, occasionally I mess it up completely, I'll admit to it, but most of the time everything done for a good reason. So I like to get in there like this and pull out any excess glue that's happening to be glooping around, but it appears to be nothing much. And then same thing. And then go on the quick debonder. This you can do this now, and you can also add use a blade a bit later on if you've got any overflow of glue. It's quite easy to scrape, to clean up without change, you know, without messing up the look of the rosewood as well. It's quite simple. So I try to get a bit at each end and a strip along the middle, so there's a bit of contact. Oops, contact everywhere. And then press that through, feed it through like that, line up, and then clamp down. This one's got a bit of overflow, so centre it a bit better. And then do the same. And so it's pretty much on and on and on and on and on and on like that. So Hugh will have seen this plenty of times, because I think I've done this with about 6 or 7 of his guitars now, which is a high honour, I have to say. It's great to have a customer who brings so many guitars through, and pretty much everything, almost everything he's had through, and most of them, you know, really interesting old 80s vintage things, some fantastic Westones. The Concord, I loved that one. Then there was the Electras as well, which I think are wonderful guitars. So lots of interesting things. Some other really nice Japanese stuff, and some really challenging ones, like the old Dion acoustic, which had a complex tree of life thing on the fingerboard, and refretting that and making sure that that stayed intact was quite nerve-wracking at times. Also because it's, you know, acoustic guitars and set neck guitars are quite a challenge. Bolt necks are easier because you can put them through this printing press, pressing press. But some of the big semi-acoustics that I did for Hugh, the semi-acoustic Electra and the Dion, also the set necked Electras as well, all of those were, you know, quite challenging because you have to build a bit of a jig to make things work. Okay, well look, I'm not going to kind of take you through. I've got a billion, any video on my channel here saying refret, you'll find what I do. It's pretty much the same process every time. So I'll join you back when this is done and we get to the trimming off stage. Okay, Hugh, back with the Westone Raider now. Frets are done. Now time to start to cut down with the edge beveling file. It's difficult when you start off there. They stick out quite a long way, and they're always want to snag the end of the frets basically. So you have to sort of lightly do it until you get sort of general levelness, so they're all about the same length, and then you find you can start to speed up without snagging. So it's just a long-winded thing, it's not quick. But everything's sitting in there nicely, so my feeling is that we've got a nice rack of frets there ready to go. Okay, so I'll just do this off camera, possibly in the morning because it's getting late now, and see you when it's done. I had the record hold on for some reason. Anyway, look, here we have the Westone Raider, and Hugh has brought, well, the barrels brought for it a dual gang pot for doing volume and tone in the same kind of unit. Thank you. So there's our regular pot, a resounding 500k, and we've got, oops, sorry, this thing here with a genuine Fender part for the volumey knobby top thing, but the problem I've got is this doesn't work with that. It's too big. I mean, you can sort of force it to sit on there, but it's not right. I mean, it's all kind of has to go off sideways, you know. like that. No, it's not that, it's not even vaguely, it's sort of doing the hula hoop. Anyway, so it's not the right unit. So I guess I'm gonna wire it up and go ahead as is whilst measuring up these to find the correct knobs somewhere else. Don't know what these are suited for, but the outer one is 6. 6.5 mils. Can we sort of take a guess at that? There's the screw thread, which is bigger anyway. We'd have to have a bigger hole in there. So that's 10 mil there, and then we have 6.5 there, and then at the top here we have 4.85, 4.7. What is it really? I suppose it's very difficult to be that accurate with these things. .7. 4.7. 4.7. Let's call it 5 to be on the safe side. So 6.5. Are we confident in that? 6.67. We're going to call it about 7 millimeters for the first one and 5 millimeters for the next one, and 10 for the hole in the body. Okay, so we have to go and look for something else. It's just an unusual little pot. I mean, it's this nice CTS dual gang thing. So anyway, what it means is we have to get rid of this. Well, volume with no tone at all. So we've got the two bits coming from the pickup. As simple as you could get. That's going to slow things down a bit, but hey. Right, so where are we going? We're going ground from pickup, and we're going live from pickup, and then we're going, oh sorry, double. Yeah, then we got the output to the jack from the middle, and we've got a ground for the bridge, which I got wrong. It actually isn't brass, it's one of those steel, it's a chromed steel thing, I'm pretty sure. One. In fact, I've got one of these in the house on another guitar, on an Aristocat. These are all in fairly good order. I don't actually know whether any of these move. They look pretty corroded, so I'm going to give them a go at getting them apart, while I'm also taking care of this thing. So what can I do tonight? I've got the refretted neck sitting here. Nut ready to go on. Ding, a couple of little dings to fill, hopefully. One there and one, oh, somewhere, I lost it there. One there and one. There were two. Maybe I just tore one and followed it round on the other side. How weird is that? Okay, one. Fill that ding. That is odd, isn't it? Maybe I'm being dazzled by the sparkles. It's just the one. A little chip on the end there I can't do much about, but okay, just the one. Yeah, so dead simple, really. I've got to go inside and search for the other bits, really. Let me just get my grease and stuff, because I think we're going to need to do some careful taking apart if those are ever going to work again. It may already be corroded for all I know. Stick that down there. Sorry, sniff, I'm gonna sneeze. Come on, where's the oh, right, fine. Okay, so what I should do is take a quick picture of where these are. Not that it makes much difference, but at least I'll have a reference for interest's sake. Now, first thing is, can we actually move any of these things? Okay, they do move. That's the first thing. So they look okay, but they're actually at their limit in terms of intonation. So I don't really need to do anything to those. But what I do want to do is check whether these work or not. Actually, they do. I'm going to give them a little bit of help. They look worse than they are then, by the looks of it. Let's just help them on their way. So it's not really corrosion, it's more age. Not bad. Okay. I'll sort of wipe the top of it afterwards. So that's yeah, that's a bit annoying. The other thing, of course, is I realised I haven't. Have I drawn out what I'm going to do with this circuit? I suppose it's dead simple, isn't it? They're just two pots, one on top of the other. So there shouldn't be any. I shouldn't have to think about it. So we got a 500k. We need a 2.2 cap. It's a bit boring. So have I done anything on camera since playing a gig on Saturday? No, I think we did a party on. No, it was Friday, wasn't it? No, it was Saturday. Oh my goodness. Yeah, played the gig at our drummer's wife's 40th. It was good fun. It seemed to go down really well, and actually felt like we were sort of knew what we were doing, really, which is quite a nice place to be at. And a comment that somebody said afterwards was, I was expecting a pub band, but you guys were really good. Something like that. But I thought it was quite a nice compliment. I made loads of mistakes, but we made some, fell apart in different places, but it wasn't a problem, you know. The crowd was good humoured and rolled with it, and so just carried on really. I had two guitars with me. I took my custom, both homemade. One was my homemade Eki SG, or the MG as I call it, a Morris guitar, and the other one was my Oakcaster headless, which I took really tuned to open G for playing honky tonk women, which seems like might seem like a funny. I don't know if I've just done this one twice now. Might seem like a funny, no, an odd guitar. It's not very Keith Richards, is it? But it's nice having it ready tuned to open G. And then after having done all of that, I just completely screwed up the intro, which I don't know why at all. But I did, and sort of just recovered pretty well. But it's one of those moments you go, well, where's my fingers? What's happening? What strings? How many strings have I got? Am I playing the tambourine, or am I playing the guitar? Just think, lose all coordination. It's bizarre, really. Anyway, it worked out. We played about an hour 40 or 45 minutes first, then followed by about an hour and 20 or something second set, which was good. It finished around 12. So hard evenings rock and roll, and then came home and just was absolutely exhausted. And the day after we got up and went sailing and came home from that, and I think I made it to about 10 o'clock and fell asleep. Okay, these are all moving quite nicely, so they're not corroded in place, which is good. And I'll wipe the excess stuff off. It's not really that worth trying to clean this up. I mean, it will certainly polish up beautifully, but it's not really the aim of this. I don't want to try and put some sort of fake mirror shine on it that doesn't fit with its age. So I'm going to leave it in that condition and really concentrate on this. Now the question is, I suppose, I've never used one of these before, so what do you tend to do as the volume? What's traditional? What are you playing? Which one would come to hand most easily? Feels like the volume would be the top one you'd get to most easily. Am I right? I better go and research on, have a quick look and see what people say. So we need to find a 22 capacitor. We got any green ones, or will we have to go see if we've got any? Oh, we have one sitting in here. That didn't work. There we are. While we're at it, what was I seeing about this? Let's stick these off to one side a minute. I noticed this hasn't got any shielding. It's got some shielding on the back of the control, back of the lid. It doesn't have any anywhere else. But it has a strip to connect the pot to the lid. It's kind of interesting, that, isn't it? Okay. And I guess they're thinking that's all that be needed for that. It's a humbucker anyway, so it's probably better not to change it from original, but if it were mine I might have painted some paint in there, but I think it's going to be fine. Being a humbucker with no coil splits or anything. Okay, so we're going to eventually stick this through, and that isn't going to work. That grippy washer isn't going to work. Nor is this. So is that because it's not wide enough, or is it because it's too short? I think it's because it's not wide enough. It's not wide enough. So the first thing we're going to do is enlarge it. So here we go, away from standard. Keep going very gently until we get to where we want to go. I also need to take a picture of the dimensions I measured up so that I can get the right bits. Now that's actually, is it enough to go through? I'll have to check. You'd think it was the simplest thing on earth. Yeah, no. So there's a point. So we've got a long shaft here which goes through the thickness. We don't have a long shaft here, so that won't go through. So phew, neither of those are doing the business. Right, let's just do something. We need to measure these up. We need, realistically, this is a what, 17, is it 17? No, 11. It's 11. That's 11. We need the longest one. But 11 will do, according to this, as long as the thread is 11. It's got enough to grip with the washer and the nut. So for the pot we're going to need 11 millimeters or more. 11 millimeters or more. Right, so I'll take a picture of that and then I'm going to have to go in. I think I'm going to call it quits because I can't really get any further with this right now. So I've figured out, because this, I don't want to dig route any further out of this unless I can find another one of these that does the job. Also one that fits these. Alright, see you in a bit. Oh look, here we are with the Westone Raider, and it's after a little bit of a detour to discover that, what did we discover? Oh yeah, we discovered that the pots weren't really the right kind, the concentric pot. First of all, the concentric pot was too short to go through the body of this guitar, which would have presented some considerable problems. The next thing we discovered was that the knobs that Hugh had got for it were the wrong, what's the word I'm looking for, diameter, the holes in the middle. So basically it was pretty much a no-goer without buying more pots or a different pot and different knobs and digging a bit of a hole in the body to allow this to go through. Wow, that's not doing anything. What the Harry Hill is going on here? Anyway, yeah, so it just kind of quickly became apparent that it was not really much of a goer in terms of getting this dual pot business arranged for this guitar. It's a shame really, because it would have been quite a nice little modification, but I think we just had to be realistic. Short of making some quite significant modification, it wouldn't work. It just goes to show that when you buy those concentric pots, what Hugh did was he bought a expensive Fender one for what I think was for where's my thing to rest the thing on. Yeah, he bought one for precision bass, I think it is, and the one he bought is quite unusual in that it has the two diameters of the posts for putting the knobs on. Both were, one was 4.7, the other one was 6.5, I think it was. And what you find is that everything else in the world, the knobs that you can get for it, which you actually bought for it, were in fact 6 and 8. So you either get the pots that are 6 and 8, sorry, yes, or you just don't, it doesn't work, basically, simple as that. Anyway, so it's and you can, I did find some pots which would have worked with the 4.5 stroke 6.5, but they were about 20 quid from the US, so you really had to kind of pay through the nose to get those matching ones. It's a bit of a funny arrangement really, because I think you'd already paid about 20 20 or so quid for. This is still not as good as the heat transfer on the other thing, you know. Anyway, I haven't quite got this worked out. Yeah, so anyway, he bought the expensive stuff, and it was leading to more and more expensive stuff, basically. And even then, we would have had to have cut away this inside here. So we just called time on it, basically. Okay, so meanwhile, the game here is, can I reach to there? Can I indeed? Because that is the question. Can I get these together on the same, get out of the way, on the same bit? Yeah, a little bit difficult to arrange. So here we have, I don't have a lot to press against, unfortunately. Now, come on, soldering iron, prove to me you are hot enough to do what I need, please. Oh, can I get it anywhere near the place I want it to stick down? Oh, Christ. This is, I haven't got this soldering iron worked out, I can tell you, that's for sure. It's getting a lot of heat through the pot, but tell you what, it's not melting it the way it should. Maybe it's just teething things, possibly, maybe it'll work out, that I can figure out the way to get it to perform the best it can. Okay, thinks to himself, maybe I should have switched on the other one while I was at it. In from the pickup, out to the this should be volume pot, should be earthed on itself, shouldn't it? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Why didn't I see it just now? Maybe I did. Well, let's get a bit of groundy wire. Thank you. Get in there, stay in there. I'm going to hold this in place so I can actually do something with this. Maybe, no, maybe, yes, maybe, no, maybe, yes. God, it's so flimsy and impossible to hold it in one place. Oh my God. Wrong pliers. So no matter what I'm doing here, this is not heating up this next door solder. That's bizarre. Plus the fact that I've got absolutely no, there's nothing, absolutely nothing to hold this onto to do it, which is doubly annoying. I think I've had enough this week of everything, actually. That's just, I mean, this is what's just so annoying, this so-called helping hand thing that is nearly worse than useless at holding things where you need them. Jesus, so much heat going in there, but none of it's going to melting the bleeding solder. What on earth? Talk about annoying. That's the point. You see, you got this impossible position where you just can't hold this thing up. No matter what you try and do, it's not strong enough to hold it. It tries to stick that in there. We shall see. Don't hold out a lot of confidence in it. Let's try this one first. So nice blob of solder on there, and now it's stuck the solder, and now it's stopping me from melting it. Let's at least stuck that down for a minute. Okay, still not happy with that. Not enough surface area maybe to get the heat into it the way I would like, but it's getting us there anyway. Oh yeah, one more to go. Oh. Go away, flying thing. Don't like the feel of that already. Why is that, I ask? Oh God, it's just not heating up. How strange. ends up looking a bit of a mess because it's not putting enough heat across in one go. Blasted, annoying. Okay, so there we have in, out. Let me get on there. Please, come on. What the? This cannot be. How come is that crush washer stopping this getting in here? I'm getting a bit fed up with electric guitars just at this point in time. No offense, electric guitars. Lovely jubbly. Right, that's that done. Now, that soldering iron, I'm going to take the tip off and put another one on and hope that it improves its performance, at least for what I need it to do. Okay, we are done in that department. Let's just do a quick test. It's always worth doing just to make sure. Oh god, you know, I've done this thing about trying to use power instead of batteries since it's here and I've got the wire, and so far it's provided me with nothing but hassle to have to drag up the thing onto the top. I can't just test it down there because I've got no batteries. Oh brilliant, now it's not working. Thank you. Good. Everything's fine. Unplug. Don't just yank it off like I did a minute ago. Right. Okay, so we had previously, now I've got to find where the bits are. Previously, where did, it's not there, it's not in there, it's not there, it's not that lot, it's not in there. It's there, isn't it? It's staring me in the face with the words Westone Raider written on it. Honestly, I tell you. Right, we have got, what now? I'm going to chuck that one in the bin. I'm going to keep that one maybe for some other day. I'm going to put this one, actually that's quite cool, isn't it? Isn't it the right sort of, ooh, domed one or flat top one? Well, its original is a flat top one, so let's go with that. Tip, when you're putting on a screw on knob, put the screw in line with the split on the shaft so it doesn't crush it. There we are. Now we take out the neck thing, take out our shim. If I could just pick the damn thing up, that would be great. Now, technically, let's put the shim back in and see what happens. So before I do that, I need a screwdriver with a decent size screw head on it. This is just not. If for somebody with reasonable, ordinary sized hands, those little containers that you put all your drill and screwdriver bits in, it just doesn't make sense. What is this stupid thing doing that either? Okay. I'm trying to do this on the oddest shaped guitar, non-standard. Okay, so set this down a bit. Quite a lot of movement is possible in this neck, so we shall have to see how it aligns first. Then I went through it from here. We need two little screws here, four little screws I think. What are they for? That's done on there, we've got those on there, we have a nut there, 6 screws for the tremolo, 2 little screws, 2 little screws. I think I just need to put these in a clear container because that just is getting right on my nose. Strap button minus, can't see any, there's no felt. There's black, there should have been a black felt, but there's none in there, so let's give it a white one, which is better than nothing. Felts, 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 felts. Strap button felts. Just in case we want to change both of them at once to make them match. Can we make them match? Or is that good as it is? Let's leave them as is. Okay, so next we'll hook up the springs, get the tremolo screws ready. We're going to set this up in a floating configuration. Once we've got the action set, well, actually no, we'll do what I usually do. We'll set it flat to begin with to double check the action. and do any fret beveling that we might need. Okay. Nearly there. Now we've got to find some sacrificial strings, another set. Now some people, it's quite a lot of people have quite different and quite strong opinions about the directions in which tremolo springs have to go or shouldn't go. I'm not entirely convinced whether it makes any too much practical difference either way, other than the fact that if you start off with one not very stretched, then chances are when you depress the tremolo it may slack off and come off, which you wouldn't want it to do. So there's that consideration, but apart from that, it doesn't seem to add more or less force either which way you do it. No, but people argue long and hard, like many things, about why you should and shouldn't do it one way or the other. Okay, so here's my new nut, beautifully ready made by me. Now I need a set of nines. Question is, have I got a set of nines? What's this say? This says, but this is 10s or more. No, this is 12s. This says Telly 10s. Thanks. Telly 10s, no good. That says 10s for 335 minus the top E. Gordon Bennett. So tell me I haven't got a set of 9s. Feeling we don't have a set of 9s. Have I got something I can take a set of 9s off? It's going to get a trifle expensive. Maybe I don't. Right. Okay, well, before I go any further, let me do something with this. I'm going to dial in the tremolo claw quite a way in, because I'm going to start with the tremolo flat on the deck. Now I know this sounds silly, but I don't remember this coming with a tremolo on. I'll look in the case. It may be. This solves the problem. Oh yeah, there it is. Thankfully. It's got some locking strap buttons on it for testing. Will come in handy, I suppose. Okay, well, we'll need our gold arm at some point. Oh yes, it did have it, because I remember saying that a new thingy would end up clunking a new dual concentric switch would end up clunking on the switch. Right, okay, well, if we have to use up a set of 9s, we have to use up a set of 9s. And I have to go and order some more because I'm running short. How can this be? There it is. I started out with two, thank you, started out with 2 blades on this workbench, and now I've got 1. There's the other one. Right. Sanity momentarily restored, but only momentarily. Now I'm going to use these again. I must use these again, or else I'm just going to end up penniless. 9s. Nines, I tell you. Through here. So the purpose of stringing this now is to check or set the action and do any fret leveling necessary. And then I want to chop these strings, hopefully I'll reuse them for the Cosmos next in the queue. Tonight I've got to take my amp and box of wires, leads and stuff up to the venue hotel where we're playing a gig tomorrow night. So I have to take that there tonight, so that the only thing I have to take tomorrow is my guitars. And I've decided I'm taking two, and tomorrow I'm taking my Strat, which hasn't been out for a while, and I'm taking my SG, or my MG as I like to call it. Okay, so first thing we're doing here is going to string this up with the purpose of, in fact let me just stick that down now while we're at it, since it's sitting there. We're going to string it up and we're going to cut the slots down for so we can get the setup for these nines. Don't want to do too much in the way of glue, just a bit to hold it in place. Right, set that on there. Put this one through here. Make sure it's up through the block, which it wasn't, of course. Pull it back one, thread it on. So in this guitar, the low E doesn't go through the string retainer bar, which is interesting. Now, I'm just going to put that there for a minute. The problem with doing this is that you can end up pulling the nut off sideways if you're not careful. Right. Now this one's quite difficult actually to get this to go over the top of the previous. Let's try it. I can get that to go under there. Yay, yes we can. Just now feed that through. It's funny, it's like nothing at the moment, nothing I've done in the last month has been standard in the guitar world, so it's all been challenging stuff, including various vintage things like the Cosmos scissors. So, sort of look forward to some. I mean, I like the change, I have to say. So part of me thinks, oh, I'd like some simple, straightforward setups or something, but actually it is much more interesting to have interesting, weird and wonderful guitars to set up or refurb. So for example, I just I fitted the Bigsby onto Paul's Epiphone Black Beauty, and just went to put it in the case and discovered it doesn't fit anymore. There's so little clearance in it that the extra 3/4 of an inch, half to 3/4 of an inch that the Bigsby hangs out the back is now too big to close the case or even get it vaguely closed. So that's kind of put that just isn't something that we've thought about. And then Paul mentioned to me that oh yes, now I think about it, he said it didn't fit on with the strap locks, it didn't fit in the box with the strap locks on, and that's quite a significant thing really. You know, you buy these little bits and pieces and you sort of go and add them on, and then you realise that something that's important to you, like your case, won't shut, and then so the case wasn't fantastic anyway, really, but and I think it was a bit lacking in protection for certain key critical points, actually, but that's a separate thing. But anyway, so I quickly found and bought a Gibson soft case with a plush lining, which I find is, well, first of all, I know it works for that Black Beauty because I put it in there straight away and tested it on my own Gibson case, and so anyway, I bought another one quickly, and that'll do the job fine. So it's just yet another thing that you don't necessarily plan from the start, or if you don't think through, you get caught out. Okay, so just looking at the positioning of everything, it's nicely lined up, and no need to change anything. Try and keep these out of the way, but I want to leave the extra length on there so we can reuse them from Westone. Okay, so the thing we've got straight away is it looks like we've got an action. Well, the action's fake because I don't have a note, do I? I just simply don't have a note without arsing about to re-plug this in. I think I just made an albatross from my own back or something. It was a good idea. I thought, I know, I won't mess about with batteries out here anymore. But it's just more trouble than it's worth. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Ooh, that's creaky neck. Blimey. There's a lot of movement in there. Well, not a lot, there's a bit. It's also, it doesn't help that it's squeaking around on this towel too, which doesn't make it feel very secure. So I'm just trying to get strings a bit stable before we start playing with the nut. Okay, so that's, oh God. See, I knew I shouldn't have done it. Force of habit. Oh, right, anyway, so before we get around to doing the nut slots at this end, which are going to be, it'll take a lot of cutting down, what we're looking at here now is what we've got in terms of playing action. It's already got a shim under there, so the question is do we need more in the way of shims, or do we have room to take care of the action, any action adjustments we need here? So we're looking at, actually that's just over 1.5, so we do have a bit of room for adjustment here. As long as we can get it in at this lower E on the roughly the right action, we're not run out. Now what will happen is it'll no doubt raise up, and that's going to raise up, and we're going to still need to make an adjustment down on the action, and the question is whether we'll have enough once we've done that. Ow. Okay, so just looking at this, eyeballing. Okay. So the bottom line is, if we don't have enough room for further adjustment when we come to put the tremolo into play as a floating tremolo, then we have to put another shim in here, or a thicker shim to raise the neck up, because we'll be a bit stuck otherwise. Now I've lost my tuning again. Oh Lord. It should have been in tune already, wasn't it? Let's see what we got in the way of action. 1.5. So, right, so, okay. I think the first thing I can tell you is that we're going to need a bigger shim than this, because once we put this on floating, that shim that was already in there isn't going to be enough. So I'm going to slack this off. Give us a chance to pull the neck off, and we're going to go find a bigger shim. Now we've got a big chunk of copper here, which is thicker than what we had over there. We've got some, what was this? This was steel. That's probably the same as what's in there roughly. A quick fish about. Not a lot of pieces. There's a really chunky, that's chunkier than that by some. No, it's the same. Okay, so that would do the job. That's probably too wide by a bit. Okay, that, and quickly find a single piece of tin, which I don't have. I don't have tin snips for, they're outside, so we can't cut with that. We can't cut that, but we may have another piece in here that we can use instead. One of those. And no, that's tin as well. That's that stuff as well. Where's the tin? Nope. Is it this bit? It is this bit. Holy mackerel. It's too small. Right, a little bit of brass. There, it matches up. Okay, after all of that, shove all of this back in. Fiddly, fiddly. Nearly full up container. Right. Okay, so just for interest's sake, if we get our remove, we'll have to remove this as well now. No, that doesn't go all the way in, does it? Of course it doesn't, but it has to come off. Does that have to? No, that can stay on. That'll just help us. 7. Okay, so up comes this, out comes that, and goes that for a minute, and then we can just quickly check what this was. 78, and this is about 117. It's probably a better bet. We don't need any. Oh, hang on a second. 118. What was this? That was 0.38, and that was 0.5. That's 0.8. So 0.8 versus 0.7. No, we're already there. So here we have it. The copper shim. In you go, my friend, in the back there. Lovely jubbly. Okay, so this is then going to require coming upwards with the saddles. That's the plan. Yeah, because we sort of expect them to be practically hitting. Now, I'm going to need, guess what? The tuner again. So I should have brought the little clip-on one, shouldn't I? That's probably what I should have done instead of this. This is good for testing things out, but pulling it up and down for a note is stupid. Okay, so next stop, let's raise up this. This is quite good because these are now coming to the end of their travel, which means they're much less scratchy underhand. Bit grubby, but they work. So the plan is to get this set up with a fixed or hardtail, and then do the adjustment of the trem at the end, and then we should be good to go. Again, we're miles high on the nut obviously, but we're going to cut that down. Okay, so that's our high action. Stick this on here. Let's have a look at our starter bridge action. Starter for 10. So we're looking at 1.4 there, which looks about good. 1.4, just over 1. That's too low. One whole turn on both sides. See what happens. Yep, 1.3, too low. One whole turn on both sides and check again. Quarter of a turn. Quarter of a turn. Check again. Okay. Not too bad, too low. Whole turns. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay, so that's a half decent playing action. Just chop this off again at this end, check the neck relief, and that's about 0.25, which isn't bad. We'll work with that for now. So the next stage in this, I've done it again. Right, that's it. I'm changing this around. I can't defeat my force of habits. Right, the next stage in this is to cut these nut slots down to a good action, followed by fret leveling where it be necessary. So let's chuck all this stuff we don't really need into there for a minute. Get this out of the way. Okay, so good old-fashioned game of adjusting nut slots, which are now massively high. So we need our 0.3 gauge, which is there. And let's start with our D, which is this one, 42, and we'll use a few assistance tools to help get this down to the right height quickly-ish. Now you can do a lot of work with your triangular file. The only downside of the triangular jeweler's file is that it leaves a sharpish V-notch down the bottom end of the slot, and in a way you want to be careful that you don't want your string to get sort of caught in that V-notch. So assuming you do a lot of the cutting work with that, you just then need to make sure you've got a nut file of some sort, or something you can round out the bottom end with, which I will do in a minute. But right now we can just keep on cutting down. The good thing about a V-notch file like this is that because it cuts with a V, there's never any danger of the string being caught in the slot, because it's always like that, which I think is quite useful. Got to obviously cut backwards. You want the string to run up a hill a little bit and then off the front end of your nut. Now any excess material above this we will come back again with the Dremel and cut off the excess material that we don't need. Okay, so we're almost there with the depth, and then I can take the nice nut file, Japanese nut file, and just use it to round out the bottom of the slot. And we're nearly at the correct depth, so a little bit more with this file. Again, at a slight bit of a slope just to help it. And basically you keep going until you get to the depth you want. Now on a Strat or a Tele or Strat style like this, when you set a very low action like I do, plus you use a backwards angle, you do run a chance of hitting the rosewood on the other side of the nut, which is quite possible. That's really on the mark, so I'm going to stop right there, which is good. But yeah, so you have to be conscious that you can sometimes clip that. It's likely. It's likely you'll do that, but that's a small price to pay for getting you're really just going to use this to make a mark first of all. It's a small price to pay for a really low and light first fret action. Always stop and try and check this to make sure it's going down at a correct angle. The very sharp V file, this has a, runs the risk of going off to one side if you're not watching it. Starting to rain. It rains, I have to go and get the hammock. So it looks like these huge great devil's teeth cutting almost right down to the wood at the back there, but that's exactly what makes this play so well, when you can get it that low. And I suppose it's, I guess the manufacturer doesn't expect you to end up with as low an action as that, so it's sort of, it's never usually a problem until you go for a low light action like this. Like I say, I'll get the Dremel out and we'll take off all the excess material afterwards, so you won't see those shark's teeth. It's good, on the mark I think. Change files. So there's quite a lot of material coming off, but that's, I've learned the hard way that it's much better to come down from the top than it is to try and work it from the bottom upwards. It just doesn't work. I can't get it to work that way, so I have to come down from the top, and although that takes some time and you hit things against things, it's by far the better of the options in my book. Let's open that up a little bit with this. So it's a lot of work to get this just right, but the payoff is pretty immense, which is why it's worth doing. Right, now I'll try and cut only with this from here on. Nearly. Look at that from the side. Yes. Right, top three, twang. There we go. G outwards, so pretty high, but not quite as high as the other ones. So have to keep an eye on not going too far forward too quickly with these. Close, very close indeed. On the ball, on the ball. Come on now, last two. Stop right there. nearly there. Almost there. It's perfect. Yep. Okay, so the question now is vis-a-vis the action. Just double check it. Go right around. 1.5. Just right. I'm going to go in half a turn on each of these. Half. No, it's the opposite way. Full. Back to normal. Half. 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 Half and half and half and half. A 9.5-inch radius, so just over, pretty low actually, it's just on the, just over 1.1, that's a bit low. I've gone down a bit low with those. Okay, I think that's where we're going to stop. But the next game will be the fret levels. And to make that easier, what I'll do is I shall use this and the tuning app, no, machine, little thing. Okay, I can tell from there it needs a little leveling, and it also needs a little bit of softening on the edges, so I'm comfortable doing that with my kit, and I will use this one this time, and we'll just get straight into it because time is a-pressing. sharp things sticking out everywhere. Can never figure out the halfway mark on these things. Something like that. Okay. Wrong size. Right size. Okay, that'll do on this one. Well, I mean, this rod will do is what I meant. Very, very subtle adjustments. Tiny adjustments. And the purpose of which is to match the curve of this rod to the curve in the neck, which is there. Once I've got it, I pull these out of the way, push those off to one side. I forgot to do something. Oh, need a bit of the old marker pen to help me. Now I could carry on and clear out all of these, which might be a good idea. Get most of that marked up. Just helps you to be able to see where you've cut with the fret file. So let's just start with that for a minute. So if we go in the E track, gives me a clear indication where it's cutting all the way along, a couple of higher frets, but not a lot, so it's in pretty good shape actually. I can stop there and replace the string, and then test out the notes. Looking pretty good. Then we calibrate. Actually, keep the same same calibration. Not what I did there, but that hurt. Whatever it was. So now I'm going to do the B track. Mostly just gravity and a bit of side-to-side motion, knowing I've got the right curve basically. Everything cutting where I think, so it's just a matter of experience till I think that's enough. Okay, it's going off into the, it's zizzing as you get to the G track, which is fine because that's what I'll do now. Recalibrate for this and notice it's a little bit over curved now. Take a tiny bit off. Feels good. Now do the G track. Now what I'm hope to see is that when we do the G track, not only does this level any high frets that might be interfering with individual notes, but what it also does is makes it possible, it opens up the bends that we were missing in the high E when we bent it across to this place here. So it's quite an even set of cutting actually, which is good. Always a good sign. It's good. Sort of go across now to the D track, check the curvature. Getting a nice run on this U channel rod that I bought from StewMac. I don't know why I bought it. No, I tell you why. I know why I bought it. I bought it because it had extra stiffness, which my rescued out of an old Affinity truss rod didn't have. It's quite a reassuring ability to hold the curve, which I like about it. Okay, check that. I think we're pretty much okay from here on onwards, actually. Right, now I don't really even need to mark up the next ones. I can just work straight by kind of feel, really. It's good too. You can see there's some dust where I've cut the frets, and it's a nice consistent cut all the way along, which means the curvature on this neck is good. It's good and even. It means that the way this tool is cutting is nice and even too. Now I'm really listening by ear, so in a way you don't really need to see. That's okay. One more to go, and we're into the cleaning up and polishing out process, which is boring, and I'll go off camera for that. But you can see, oh, and then there's the cutting down of the nut, cleaning up the frets, polishing out, sanding out, softening off the ends of the frets as we go. And then it's a case of basically setting the tremolo and the intonation. We'll use some new strings to make sure everything plays well, and keep these for the next guitar. Pretty good. It's Matsumoku stuff that just fills you with confidence. The way they made these guitars, absolutely no trouble at all with that. Reassuringly straightforward, I have to say, and it's not, you know, a lot of this has been, lots of guitars have struggled, but Matsumoku guitars never put up a fight. Now the reason I left the long dangling ends on these strings is so that I can thread them through the next guitar, loads of non screwed up wire. I think what I'm going to do is take these off, clean up, sand off polish off the nut, sand down the nut I should say, and then get ready for off the camera. I'll just do all the polishing out and then I'll restring it and do this tremolo, and it'll be nice and straightforward, ready to go. And then tomorrow and sometime at the weekend I can turn my attentions to the Cosmos. While I'm off camera as well, what I really ought to do is straighten out these strings so that they don't do that. It becomes a real pain in the what's-it if they do, because you can't really reuse them. Curly strings are almost impossible to work with. Since these are practically brand new, I really can't afford to lose them, waste them as sacrificial strings. So we'll get the old pliers on them and sort them out. I got loads of routing I want to do today as well. Let's put these here safely out of the way, and now let us take forth the Dremel machine and scrapeth the hecketh out of this nutteth whilst making a cloud of white bony smoke. See, really, you have to take one heck of a lot off here. You don't really hardly have any by the time you're finished. I should make a special file. I should make a special file for this, because really, I do it rather a lot. Probably a little bit more dependable than going at it with the Dremel. You can do it. I don't know if the words to that, but yes. Yes, very nice, I like. So, tonnes, metric tonnes of bone dust removed, leaving you, us, with a light, not very hugely deep thing, and nut slots. So, and also what you can do is you can do a bit of a little bit of opening up at the top of each slot, should you require it, just as a way of helping the thing not to grab the strings. Obviously not going down to the bottom level of the cut or of the slot. looks quite nice, I like that. And then if you're in the mood, you can sort of, you can probably round off the end here so it's not so sharp, and vice versa at the other end. It's quite difficult to do, but there you go. Oh, go on, perfectionism. Yes. Right, so that's that. And very briefly, the next thing, we're on medium jumbo frets here, so we just need to reprofile anything that we've flattened off, which isn't much. It's very mild in this one. It's a pretty good fret job, if I may say so myself. But working with this Matsumoku stuff seems to make that quite easy to achieve, or relatively easy to achieve. So not a lot of hard work required here to round these off, or yeah, that's the word. It's very close. A couple of spots where it's flattened at all. And a good indicator of how little or much you've actually empirically done in terms of levelling is how quick you can go across this part without having to stop and work the spot. And this is really flying through, so despite what it may have looked like, there's hardly any material removed. A little bit on these far edges there, a bit on this front edge. But that is that done. So the next bit is to remove as much of the dust and crud and filth as possible. And one way to do that is with some of the stuff, naphtha or Coleman cooking fluid, cooking fuel, and then we can take the bulk of the gunge off. And partly the reason I'm doing this is partly lifting marker pen ink off, which is a good thing to do, but also I want to get more of the dust off as well, so that it doesn't stop the masking tape sticking that I'm going to use next as a sort of prelude to polishing everything out. Just to get a sense of how mucky that is. Thought I caught it, but not this time. Okay. Missed. So this then gets a good taping up, which I'll do off camera once I've gone, maybe have a cup of tea or something. There you go, big tape up. This is actually, I don't think this is actually the low tack. Sometimes they get mixed up, sometimes it's hard to tell. Anyway, so tape all this off, polish it all out, bit of nice aerobic exercise, and restring, stretch out the strings, and then set the tremolo, or set the intonation and then set the tremolo into floating mode. And then the only thing I've got to do tonight after that, really, well, the main thing is I've got to get my gigging equipment over to the hotel. When I come back, I've got to play out Paul's Black Beauty and get the nut slots right on that, because at the moment they're struggling. These just a dream by comparison. For some reason, it may be I used unbleached bone, that might have something to do with it. Maybe it's a little stickier than it is powdery. I could be wrong, but something about it, it's giving me a little fight at the moment. But we shall see. I shall sit in the house and play it. Probably take the opportunity to do a little sound test as well, which is a good thing. And then that will be ready for him to pick up on Saturday. Later. And here we are. We have done the thing which is called the, what's it called? Restringing. Pardon me, stretching out strings. Well, not completely stretched out, but nearly. So I'll do a bit of stretching out, a bit more stretching out. A bit of this, I've done quite a bit actually, but and then I'm going to set the tremolo floaty. And what we're going to do is we're going to do that thing of pressing down, tuning to from G down to E, letting go, retuning, you know, stuff we've seen before with the post-it notes. So let me just get this tuned up. So, one more stretch. Squawk. And then the Galeazzo Fredua method, for which I keep in-house a bunch of post-it notes because it's really useful. So we get the tremolo level, then we detune it, and then we tune it back up, and it suddenly becomes perfect. Perfect. So, post-it notes. Got some glue. Got some glue stuck on there. And some other ones. Post-it notes without glue. Right. For this, we need the tuner, which we've got in play. We need the tremolo on, which we will have in a minute when I get it on. And then we do this thing where we've got our bridge is in a good position. It's ready to go. So I'm going to line this up. We want to be flat, horizontal with the tremolo block. Sorry, we want the tremolo, what's this thing called? Plate. Parallel to the body. Can I see that? A little bit less. Get that one off because that's not exactly square. A little bit less. So, great little system. Okay, that's parallel. Then we tune this. What do we do? Rear template touches the body. Yes, we've done that. Put some on, push them. Tune G string to pitch. Right. Okay, now depress it down to E. I'm putting enough sheets to detune it to E. Almost there. There we are. E. Now tune it. Once you've done that, tune it all. Then remove the posties and go to the back. This is the brilliant bit, and undo the tremolo claw until your G string becomes G again by letting slackening off the claw screws. So you're softening or reducing the pull on the springs. So G has become a G sharp. Well, we're getting there. G is now G sharp. And basically you just tune this until the G becomes G, and then you're in tune and you're balanced. It's an amazing simple system. I love it. Slightly flat, and again with one side on the ball. Can we get this round one more time? So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of rattling noises. Now, as a result, we have a higher than we want action. This is natural because we've lifted up the tremolo arm. It's tilted forward, so we need now to take this down by, let's go one whole turn on each post. Let's see what happens. That's not really very much at all, is it? Let's try it, and if necessary we'll come back up. Sort of simplest way of keeping track really is to do the same on all of them. Okay, so now we still need to tune because we've just wound it down. The action's now lowered. And we'll just tune this. Remember, it's floating, so it's going to take a little while to reach its equilibrium. I think we're pretty good. Let's just try this strap lock things. Over and over and on. Okay, so, yeah, it's a slightly weird strap arrangement. Okay, oh look, the battery operated, not battery operated thing. Okay, so we have 9.5, nearly 9.5 inch radius. I'm just getting my special glasses out. See what the limits are to what we can get. Stay back out of this. So, oh blimey, that's under 1, so that's not good. Under 1. Let's go around 1. Oh well, Lord, where's my phone? Can't do it. Can't take it right now. I'm busy in the middle of something. Okay. So we've got just over 1, way under 1. Just over 1, under 1. Go. Got things to do, got to be out of here, that's that. Refretted. Yeah, lovely old thing. Refretted. Oh, damn. One thing I didn't check. Intonation. That should probably be on the mark, but let's do it on here. And then we'll be good to go. Frankly, that's a little short. Just check those nut slots for a tiny bit of sandpapery work needed. There we are, done. That's it, folks. A tiny bit of sandpaper in the slots later on, but we're done. Thank you for watching.